What's going on, guys? Welcome to Behind the Music Biz, a Raise Rowdy podcast. This is episode 17. I'm your host, Peyton Heben. Today, we are joined by a very special guest, someone I've had the honor of knowing for quite a while now, since I first moved to Nashville. Um, he's got a lot of experience in booking, talent buying, and concert promotion. He's the senior talent buyer of Canary Hall in Nashville, Tennessee, which is the largest independent music venue here in Nashville. And he's the owner of Cult Classic Presents, a promoter in the Southeast. So please welcome Andrew Hall.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
First podcast.
First podcast, and if it's episode 17, I feel honored. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We're just getting started. I think this is like the fourth. I think you're the fourth episode we've had in this studio.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The rest
Man,
were
thanks
filmed.
for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The rest of the episodes were filmed in my apartment in my living room.
Okay.
The sound was bad and no camera.
No lighting.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So now it's just top tier everything.
Yeah, dude, this looks great.
Yeah.
You guys did a great job.
So yeah, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Dude.
It was very last minute. We were trying to do this for a little bit now.
I know. Yeah, I'm glad you hit me up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, real quick, so you're the owner of Cult Classic Presents,
Yeah.
which is a concert promotion.
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of explain what concert promotion is to the listeners that don't necessarily know?
Yeah, so we it's kind of a mixture. Either we're just buying talent on behalf of the venue. Sometimes they have in-house marketing. We kind of rely on their marketing teams to execute everything. Or we're actually buying and promoting the actual show. So kind of depends. I'd say we're mostly buying talent with the end goal is obviously to sell tickets, so you got to promote. And even if the venue or event series has marketing in place, we try to kind of come in and do some coaching and try to figure out where we can kind of fill in gaps, and whether that's advertising or just street teaming and just general social content, organic content. And yeah, we do about 7 or 8 clubs here in the Southeast, and some kind of one-offs in other places. But yeah, we are typically do kind of the in-house buying thing where we try and be really involved with the venue. We're not just kind of like coming in, doing our thing, leaving. We really try to kind of get involved in like a pretty granular level, and try to kind of dissect everything that's going on and try to figure out where can we improve, where is visibility being missed. I'm a big believer in like not just trying to find the fans of the artists, but trying to find new fans, right? And like, I think we live in this world now where like, you can pick up this thing and somebody advertises a thing to you, on Instagram or Facebook, and you become a fan, and that really wasn't a thing 10 years ago. So the ability to just find new music, I think, is out there, and content has obviously been a huge part of that. I tell people all the time, posters are great, but the likelihood of me clicking on a poster and then going on Spotify to try to figure out what they sound like, there's too many steps.
Right.
And so if somebody advertises a 30-second really quality video to me, I'm like, that sounds great. I have the night off. I want to buy a ticket. So I'm a music fan first, I feel like. So I kind of have that end goal in mind of like, trying to be, what do I want to see? What's cool to me? And also being able to like take yourself out of it too. Like what other people like. I figured out a long time ago, like the cooler that I think it is, the less it's gonna sell. The cooler other people think it is, the more it's gonna sell.
Right.
So I typically like things that are like underground, and that's kind of something that we're really big on, is like trying to develop talent and trying to actually like foster a community of support, marketing, and just trying to be I think coming from artist management, booking world, the same feeling that I get from like being a part of an artist story for an extended period of time, I feel like I get to kind of be part of the magic for one night,
Right.
and it still feels really cool. So, um, yeah, in a nutshell, that's kind of what we do.
Um, if you want to sit closer to your mic,
Yeah,
because I think you're out of the
Sorry.
frame. You're
Sorry.
good. I can hear you fine, but I think
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was looking. You're out of the frame.
Cool.
But yeah, you mentioned your artist management and booking background. So before we kind of really get into the nitty gritty side of the what you do in the business and the what makes that go, can you kind of walk us through your journey of each position you held and how you kind of got to Nashville and are started in the business?
Yeah. Oh God. I actually started out in graphic design. So I wanted to make posters and shirts and hats and whatever. And in turn, I started kind of doing photo, just because it kind of played into graphic design. Um,
How old were you and when were you? This is in your hometown.
yeah, I moved to Austin, Texas when I was about 19.
Okay.
um, and I was sneaking into clubs trying to get in, and whether I knew the band or I had fake at the time or whatever, I was just trying to be a part of the magic, really. And I short story, I guess, is I moved into a house with a group of guys, and we were like, we need to throw like a housewarming party. And we like brought in the stage and a bunch of sound and lights and threw this awesome party. And somebody walked up to me after, and they're like, that was like one of the coolest parties I've ever been to. They're like, you should keep doing this. So we did it like once a month for about a year. And I woke up one day with a big note on my door that was like, you need to stop, basically. And we had kind of built this like little community. It was at the time it was called the Hippie House.
Hmm.
I tell people I'm a recovering hippie, and we just kind of started this thing out of our house, and it was really incredible. And I think back about that a lot because it was so simple but so fun. There was no, you know, there was nothing shiny about it. It was just a bunch of friends getting together and doing things. And when that when the city of Austin shut us down, I posted on Facebook and I was like, man, I was 19 at the time, so like everybody that I had met in college was like because of this thing.
Where'd you go to school?
It was Austin Community College.
Cool.
Yeah. And I posted on Facebook. I was like, "Oh, that was so fun. We can't do this anymore." And I remember a guy named Greg Ware in Austin. He owned a bar called One to One Bar. Had everybody from like Gary Clark Jr. to you name it. He was an awesome guy. They played there. He's like, "Man, I got this club here. Like, I kind of need somebody who's going to come in and do shows here." So he's really the first guy that ever gave me a shot. And I just started booking shows there. Had no idea what I was doing. Just throwing stuff at the wall, booking shows that lost money, made a little money, didn't know how to market shows, didn't know how to contact bands, and it really was a trial and error thing. And I think going back on it, I don't know if I'd change it, but it was definitely a unique way to start for sure.
Yeah, I think being thrown into the deep end with stuff like that is the best way to learn.
Totally.
Because I don't know if I think I told you this that one time we had coffee. I told you, so I'm from Fort Myers, Florida.
That's
and right when COVID was happening, I was talking with a buddy, and he was like, "Why don't we just start you have connections in Nashville. Why don't we just start like a little music festival? Nothing too crazy." So we did, and it was my job to book the talent, and it's tough because
Yeah.
I mean I just had my connections like to a few artists and a few business people. So I just like tried reaching out to as many people as I could, and I ended up like having a connection with CAA and just like, but it was the whole process was like super eye opening to me because I had no idea how it worked, and it's a long process.
Yeah.
A lot of offers and
Making mistakes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's what it's all about. I met with an intern yesterday. Wants to come work with us, and I kind of said the same thing. It's just about making mistakes and trying things out. And it's like, oh, if I do this, then this happens. If I don't do this, then that happens. And I don't think you learn that without kind of going through the motions. So
Are you taking your interns from Belmont or?
Yeah, we just did the Belmont internship fair last
Nice.
week, which was awesome. It's like, hundreds of kids in there, and I always leave feeling very like, bright-eyed, like the future of music is alive and everybody's still hasn't been beaten down by life yet.
Yeah.
They still got the twinkle in their eye. Um, but yeah, man, I did that in Austin for a while, and I was kind of spinning my wheels. Like I said, I didn't really know how to pick a lane, and so I was still doing photo and graphic design and trying to be a talent buyer. And then I was like, well, maybe I could represent some bands. So like I picked up some bands, um, and I was working a ton of festivals, doing like event logistics and side ops and admin stuff, which I loved. I loved being on the road. I felt like I had kind of joined the circus a little bit,
Hmm.
and it was really fun. It didn't support the kind of lifestyle that I live today. Um, it was tough on me. It was like eating bad food, drinking, smoking cigarettes all day,
Yeah.
sitting in a crowded van with a bunch of guys traveling to the next thing. And I actually woke up one day with a blood clot in my
Mm.
arm at a festival, and they're like, "You need to go to the hospital." And so I went to the hospital, and I was like, "What is this from?" They're like, "Do you smoke?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Do you drink?" I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Do you eat bad food?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Are you exercising?" I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Well, it's probably that," So they told me you cannot fly home to Texas with this because you have pulmonary embolism, it could explode in the air, which I had no idea. And I got home and I got hired as a driver for Cody Jenks and went and picked up Cody's agent at his house. And the whole time when I got hired, they're like, "Don't talk to him. Like, just don't talk to him." I said, "Okay." Well, the whole way there, he's sitting in the back seat asking me questions. "What do you do when you're not doing this?" And I was like, "Oh, man, I book a band, do a graphic design, all the things." And he's like, "You need to pick a lane." And I said, "Yeah, you're probably right." And he's like, "You're gonna come work for me." And I was like, "All right." So next Monday, I worked at True Grit Talent and Management Presents for about 4.5, 5 years, which was an awesome experience. Worked with a lot of great artists, worked with a lot of great people, and went through COVID with True Grit, and it was a really eye opening experience, and loved every minute of it. Obviously, tons of challenges too, like anything that's worth doing. There's challenges, um, but about midway through, I started to kind of get the promoter itch again, and started like, well, I kind of want to do this, I kind of want to do that. And again, they kind of were like, hey, you need to kind of pick a lane. Well, late pandemic, like a lot of people, I was just spinning my wheels. Like, what if we did this? What if we made money on this? And just trying to figure out ways to get through the day. Because, I tell people I was basically a glorified travel agent, just pushing dates back and dates back and dates back and not making any money at all because shows weren't playing through.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to a ton of club owners who they're like, yeah, like I'm booking the venue now because like I lost my talent buyer, or like my talent buyer got absolved by another entity, or they got out of the business entirely. Which I was always really envious of those people. I was like, what are they doing that I'm not hip to? But I found a couple clubs that really like needed somebody, and so I just kind of started booking shows for these venues as their buyer. And I tell people it kind of just snowballed. Like I got a call from another venue that knew somebody at that venue that kind of heard what we were doing, and then when I came onto that venue, it just kind of snowballed into the next one. And a couple years later, we're 7 or 8 venues down. True Grit got absolved by William Morris, um, and so as I kind of knew that was happening, they didn't blindside us by any means. Like we kind of knew for about a year that deal was at least in the works, right? And so I just kind of started to arm myself with as many clubs as I possibly could, and good group of guys that were basically just friends that I wanted to work with, and some of the people that were actually at True Grit with me. Um, and it's been a really incredible experience, man. I'm really happy doing what I'm doing. Um, I do miss booking and artist management a little bit, but life's long, and I feel like, um, if you give me a reason to, I'll jump back and forth eventually. So, um, yeah, man, it's been a lot of fun. I'm appreciative of the people that are around me and just people that are hustling for us and around us and with us. It's been a really awesome experience.
Where were you at before you moved to Austin when you were 19?
I was in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was born in Dallas, Texas. My family moved to Atlanta. I went to Chattahoochee High School, um, and just wasn't really what I want. I didn't want to be in Atlanta. I visited my brother who lived in Austin, and my mom. I remember saying to my dad, like, I don't think he's coming back, and I didn't. I came and visited. I drove home. I grabbed all my stuff and I told my mom, I said, "Hey, I found a college in Austin I want to go to." She was like, "No, you're not going." I was like, "No, I'm going. I've already figured it out. I got a place I'm going to live." And that was the best decision I ever made. And she would say the same thing. It was really kind of it was the first like opportunity where I kind of just went out on my own and said, I trust myself. Um, I know I'm a hustler. I'm going to figure it out when I get there. And really did. I really didn't know what I was doing, and so I just kind of kept putting one foot in front of the other and trying to be around good people. And when I tell you I made a lot of mistakes, I made a lot of mistakes. I like we don't need to spend a ton of time about it, but drugs and alcohol are a big part of my story, and um, they're not anymore. It was such a big part of my story that I had to kind of get away from it so far to where I'm about 4 years clean and sober, which is
That's awesome.
a blessing. I'm very grateful for, and a lot of the guys that I work with are sober too, which is really awesome. It didn't happen that way on purpose. It just kind of kept meeting people like, "Hey, we're sober. Why don't we just try
Yeah.
and kind of work together?" And it's a really good group of guys.
That is a big thing in Nashville. There are a lot of people that come together being sober, and
Yeah.
this industry it's very tough to get kind of sucked into everything, as far as that
Yeah.
that scene. Um, so when you were looking to get places like clubs to book, did you just shoot them emails? Were you calling, or did you get recommendations of, oh, these people are looking for somebody, or?
Man, as I was kind of phasing out of True Grit and I knew that it was being sold, like I said, I was talking to clubs that I booked shows with, right? I put my artists there. I trusted them with my show. And when the dude left or the girl left that was booking there that I, really had a great relationship with, I was like, man, who's going to fill their shoes? Pandemic, it was like, whether you in like A&R or management or booking, like people just kind of changed teams and got out of the business or decided to do something else or took a break. And there was a club I started with in Houston called Last Concert Cafe. And Last Concert, I think, is the oldest club in East Texas. It was a brothel in the 1800s. And then, like in the early 1900s, when they had segregation, black jazz artists that would go and play at the Rice Hotel, after their set was done, they had to leave and they had nowhere else to go. And so they called it the Last Concert because all these guys would kind of go to this cafe, and it was kind of this speakeasy. And I booked a ton of shows with Third and Lindsley as an agent, and was talking to them one day and figured out that they had a need for a buyer. And they're like, "But you got to move to Nashville." And I was like, "Man, I don't know if I'm ready for that." Like, I loved Austin. I still love Austin. But one thing that I did notice is, like, Austin claims itself as the live music capital of the world, which, for better or for worse, I think might be true. But Nashville is the industry capital of the world, and there was hardly any industry in Nashville or in Austin. There wasn't a ton of managers. There wasn't a ton of publicists or radio people or even agencies. And it's funny because I think a lot of them have followed suit in the last couple of years. Like, William Morris opened an Austin office. I think High Road Touring has an office there. Um, and more coming. C3 Management's obviously there. Um, but they're just, I mean, I feel like here you could throw a rock and it's like, oh, here's so and so. And it just really wasn't that. I felt like I struggled to find people that wanted to work like I did,
Mhm.
or at least were into the things that I was into. But Nashville's been such an eye-opening experience to me. I spent about, I say, 2-ish years at Third and Lindsley, and I got a call one day. They're like, "What are you doing right now?" I was like, well, "I'm just working," and they're like, "You want to come up to Cannery Hall?" And I was like, "Why?" They're like, "They need a talent buyer," and I was like, "I mean, I'll take." I was like, I was happy at my gig at Third. I really loved it there. It's such a salt of the earth room, no frills. There's still beer in the carpets from 20 years ago, um, and it's just as Nashville gets. I feel like Third and Lindsley and Station Inn, like Santa's Pub, Bobby's Idle Hour, like those are like some of the last few like real places you can go that like
Mhm.
no frills, just music. You're there, you're locked in, and man, it was really a hard decision because it's such sweet. I mean, the door guy has been there for 30 years. The sound girl, Kathy, has been there for 30 years. Ron's been there for 35 years. Thomas has been there for 25 years. Like, so, like, I kind of wanted to follow in those footsteps and, like, be there forever. And an opportunity obviously opened at Cannery. And, there's 3 stages there, and there was a lot of room for me to grow as a buyer. And I remember just like trying to pick up the phone to call my boss and let him know I was going to go. And it took me a couple days, man, like literally just staring at my phone, just being like, how am I going to call this guy that like is the whole reason I'm in Nashville, and tell him like I'm going somewhere else. And it was such a great call. Like I just remember I was like basically in tears, man. I was like, dude, you've given me like a platform to like the clubs that I was booking, I feel like at the time they were great, but Third and Lindsley had a notoriety that like none of my other clubs did, and we obviously added value in those spaces. But Third and Lindsley, I just felt like I was lucky to be a part of, and still am. Like those people are still amazing and awesome at what they do, and I still go see shows there. Um, but Cannery is just a great opportunity for me, and I'm really glad I'm there. It's a lot of great people around me that came from like Ryman and TPAC and War Memorial and all these other great places, and I saw a need to kind of like I think it's like an endless game sometimes of just trying to like set new goals and new things. And um, I think there was a moment where I was like, I want to just be happy where I'm at. But I think there is also something within me that's like, keep leveling up, keep trying to like get to the next thing. And I don't necessarily know what that looks like, but when an opportunity feels like, hey, this is the next step up,
Mhm.
like it's hard to ignore it,
Right.
you know. So
So I'm assuming that it would be like a conflict of interest. Like you can't compete. So you can't
exactly,
book for both
right,
in Nashville.
yeah,
That makes sense. So some of the other venues you book for, I know you do Tuffy's Music Box and Lounge
yeah,
in Sanford, Florida.
yep,
And then I saw you do Heartwood Studios in
yeah,
Gainesville.
yeah.
Is that what it
Harwood
is?
Soundstage and
Yeah.
Studios, yeah. A lot of the rooms that I work with, including Cannery, are all pretty historic spots. Um, and I didn't do that on purpose. It just kind of happened, and I think it's kind of a cool niche, like finding some of these like older independent music venues that as some of these larger entities build the next mecca of music here in town. Some of these smaller venues that really built the actual neighborhood, like the reason that the apartment complex got built next door and the reason that the restaurant got built next door was because they wanted to get closer to music. I think it's the reason people move to Nashville or move to a place like Austin. Um, During the pandemic, I think Austin had like over 75 live music venues close. And so really kind of adopted this model of like let's try and help you know, these older music venues that and try and get them like new marketing and new ticketing, and if they need new production, let's talk about that. And So yeah, it didn't really happen on purpose that way, but I'm kind of glad to be like in the pocket with some of um, these older clubs. So yeah, Heartwood's great. That's in Gainesville, Florida. It's on right on the campus of the University of Florida. Um, Tuffy's is in Sanford, Florida, which is basically a suburb of Orlando. As I'm sure you know, you're a
Mm-hmm.
Florida guy. And then we just signed on with Skippers Smokehouse in Tampa, Florida.
Oh, I saw Josh Malloy played there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
he's
saw.
coming up. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
like
so
late April, I think.
gotcha. So I saw that on his schedule, and I was like, I'm from like 2 hours south of Tampa. I was like, I've never heard of that place.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I saw that, and I saw someone else I think announced they're playing it. So I was like, okay, this must be like
dude, it's cool, man.
growing.
It's salt of the earth. It's outside. You know, they have like a sand pit, you know, there, and it's just like it feels like a beach bar, you
That's
know.
awesome.
But like guys like Robert Earl Keen and you know Samantha Fish and yeah, Josh Malloy have all played there. It's an incredible, just kind of again salt of the earth room. It's no frills, very Third and Lindsley, um, very Last Concert Cafe type of a vibe.
What's the cap on that?
I think it's 700.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a new development as of like a week ago. So we kind of feel like we've built these really cool like routing options for clubs in the southeast that are, you know, we do a little bit of everything. I tell people I'm a mixed bag. I put up a Korean pop show last week and
Oh,
a hip hop show next week and a country show today.
yeah.
Um, but those rooms, I think they scream, you know, country and Americana and folk, and really kind of put together something I feel like really special down there. That's starting to kind of or has really kind of taken a hold of agents and managers and artists, and I have people call me and they're like, dude, I just got out of a meeting with at the agency, and like they're talking about Toughies. You know, I'm like,
Hmm.
dude, that is wild to me that people are talking about what we're doing at all.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just I feel like I'm lucky enough to just even have a seat at the table. But then when I think, you know, and I didn't get into this for any sort of like notoriety. In fact, I kind of like being back of house and not super public facing. Um,
Well, now that changes a
I
little bit
know,
today.
shit. Yeah. No, I appreciate you having me though, because I want an opportunity to definitely talk with you guys, and I love talking about music. So
Yeah. The goal of this podcast is to educate people on the things that go on behind the, literally behind the music business. Like
sure,
people they buy tickets to see Josh Malloy in Tampa, but they don't really know all the things that go into it. Like they just think, oh, someone owns the bar, and they call up somebody and he plays there.
right.
They don't know how many pieces go into it, all the booking agents, and then the management, and
Yep.
promoters, and then the venue itself. Like there's so many moving parts that nobody understands, and like for me, I grew up. We had the ranch in Fort Myers,
Yeah.
so like
Legendary.
I would see people come through. Dylan Scott, Billy Currington, Parmalee. I mean, who else? I've seen tons into Chris Lane,
Yeah.
Mitchell Tenpenny, tons of people there. Hardy, I
Yeah.
saw
Yeah.
Hardy there twice, back in like 2018, 2019.
Wow.
I think his biggest song at the time was Rednecker,
Hmm.
and God's Country that he wrote for Blake Shelton had just come out. Um, but like just seeing that, I didn't know how any of it worked, but I loved it. I
Yeah.
loved the live show part of it. I loved country music. I knew I wanted to be a part of it, but just to see and learn how it all
Mhm.
came together, I learned through podcasts
Yeah.
and kind of just started piecing things together.
Totally.
So that's the goal of this podcast. So I really appreciate you coming here and kind of
Yeah,
teaching
man.
people about what it is that you do.
Man, I'm lucky to just. I feel like I'm a student of all of this. I'm such a nerd about all of booking, and you know, I could sit with anybody and talk about it for a really long time. You know, I feel like the group of guys that are around me too are really eager to learn, and I feel grateful to, like I said, have a seat at the table and be able to kind of work with the next generation of music. I'm super young. I'm 28, so like I feel like I'm still constantly. There's so many people that I look up to that I still call on a daily basis. I have questions about things all the time. Um, Shout out to my dad, but like one of his things was like he's like, don't be too smart to be coachable and just learn. Like, be stupid. Just ask questions. Learn constantly. Don't try and know too much. Um, and so I'm always just trying to be kind of a student of the game. And I think Nashville. We just talked about that a lot on this podcast, but like Nashville is just really gave me this kind of jumping off place to connect with. I go out to breakfast or lunch or dinner or coffee with anybody that's works less than a mile away from me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and cannery I think is easily the most exciting thing that I may have ever been a part of. It's just a really unique room, and they spared no expense on production, and the people that work there are all very knowledgeable and talented, and any any place I've ever worked for, whether it's Jet's Pizza or
Hmm.
a music venue, like there's always been like a this is the way it's always been sort of a thing. Well, at Cannery, it's like it's a really old music venue. It has everybody from like George Strait to Johnny Cash, Chet Atkins, Sonic Youth, Green Day, Jane's Addiction, um, and obviously closed in recent years, but has had some incredible acts: Hardy, Paul Cawthon, um, Ashley McBride, Chris Stapleton. Um, but this is a kind of a new beginning for Cannery, and so when we got there, it was like, and everybody there is fresh. I think I was probably like one of the first 4 or 5 people hired. So it was like we were responsible for creating this is the reason why, or the way it's always been, and that was kind of a new skill set for me. Like I'd never like created like a standard operating procedure or like a scope of work for new people, and just trying to kind of build something from the ground up. Obviously, there was so much that went into it even prior to me getting there, but it took a village, and it's still taking a village. I think we're at show like 15 or 16. We opened in like late January 2024. Um, some great artists coming up. I think by the time this comes out, it'll probably be announced. But like Lily Rose, Jake Worthington, um, you know, uh, Royal Otis, Queen Herbie, just a lot of cool, really, really awesome stuff. That like when I got to Cannery and I said, why am I doing this? And it was like to level up, to just keep working on cooler and cooler and stuff, and surround myself with people that know a lot more than I do. And I feel like if I'm the dumbest guy in the room, I'm probably in a good place.
Yeah.
So
So this might be a little bit of a loaded question,
yeah,
but booking for a venue in Nashville is obviously a lot different than booking a venue in Sanford, Florida, or Gainesville, Florida,
sure.
um, because you have a ton of competition. There's a lot of other venues that they could go play.
God, yeah,
I mean, you have like, especially, yeah, like the Ryman and Opry, and
dude.
I mean, yeah, Exit In. Like, there's so much. It's very saturated with venues here.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you navigate that by saying this is the venue that you want to play rather than playing this other venue?
Yeah, man. I guess it's a hard question to answer, but I'd say that the reason it's easier to book clubs like Tuffy's and Heartwood and Skippers um, is the fact that I am here, and that I feel like for a while when I was living in Austin, you're just emailing people that you've never met, you've never spoken to before, and now like a lot of these guys are like friends of mine or colleagues or people I've gone out to lunch with. And it's easier to do business with people when they like know you're a real human. And I don't know why that is, but it is. Like you meet somebody, you're like, oh, okay, like you're real, we're gonna do business together. As opposed to somebody just emails you cold and you're like, nah, well, whatever.
Yeah.
I've never heard of Tuffy's before. I've never even heard of Sanford, Florida before. And what I've kind of heard from, really great agents that I respect are like, dude, Andrew, like you guys have filled a gap in routing for those markets. Like Orlando, there was like a couple places to play that were like really good at like marketing and production and artist experience. Gainesville, there's like maybe one other place to play, maybe two, down there. And so just like providing another option for people. I didn't have that opportunity until I got to Nashville, and I like went to Polestar and I went to like AIBA and Americana Fest and like the Relics Music Conference, and like was just like surrounding myself with people I mean, like I think I wake up on a daily, like Monday through Friday, and I'm like, who am I gonna get lunch with this week? Like, and dude, I don't know how we've linked up, but like,
Yeah. So I had seen the Steel Drivers were
that's
playing
right,
at Tuffy's,
that's right,
and I was like, oh, no support. I'm trying to
right,
book my guys over, like trying to get them in the Florida market because obviously I was living in Florida at the time. I was back and forth.
that's
I think.
right.
I wasn't here full time.
How long you been here now?
Full time since January 23.
Cool, man.
I think did we meet in 23 or was it 22?
I think it's 23. Yeah.
Then
we
maybe I
went
was
to
full time.
Dose Coffee, and
Yeah.
it's just that right there. Like I don't know if I think you hit me up, and like I mean transparently I think I was like whatever.
Yeah.
And then we were like, let's go out to coffee, and I was like, okay, cool, this guy's a real dude and he's nice, and like he
Yeah.
seems like he's a passionate dude.
You turned me
like,
down for my artist playing Tuffy's.
Ah!
You were like, just don't think it's a good fit. And I was like, that's fine. But like, I also don't really know what I'm doing. And then you were
Yeah.
like, let's get coffee or something.
dude, yeah.
So then we did. And yeah, now it's just been like an easy text each other,
Yeah. Yeah, man. I feel like that's it right there. Like
Yeah.
that's the magic of being in Nashville, and it's just it's even hard to do that as it is, but like when you live here it becomes a little bit easier.
Right.
There's so many incredible and knowledgeable people here that I think we're just lucky to even be in the same city as. It's really kind of a neat thing. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of the power of Nashville. It's just being able to sit down with people that know more than you, and are willing to kind of say like, hey, I'll let you like kind of look over my shoulder, like what I'm working on or what I'm doing. Like there was a lot of people, I'm struggling to remember anybody off the top of my head right now, but like that just kind of like sat there with me and like opened up their computer and was like, this is what I do, and like this is how I like operate my spreadsheet or like my software, or like how I keep up to date with advances, and just little things like that where I was just like, how do I do any of this? I knew I wanted to be a part of music, and I wanted to just have a seat at the table, but I didn't know how to pick a lane. And I feel like we've kind of found this niche lane of like just really taking care of like older clubs that were underrepresented, and nobody was just jumping up and down talking about these places. And I was like, dude, I'll jump up and down. This place is awesome, So I feel like I don't think those doors would have opened for Tuffy's or Heartwood or Skippers or like anything that I do if it wasn't for being here. I think it really kind of turned a corner for me. And it's hard to explain. Like, there's no like reason why I couldn't have done that from like Seattle, Washington, or Austin. But
Right.
there's something about being involved, and like even just going to a bar at night and like meeting so and so, and that opens a door to meeting so and so. It's kind of it's a snowball.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I think just being here, you're very hip to like what's working. So,
Totally.
you're the first person on like an artist that's about to pop. So
Yeah.
they sign with a booking agent, you're kind of like right on that.
Right.
So I guess that leads into my next question is, what is your process of the booking and like how you know who's going to play Tuffy's? I know you probably have a lot of agents that reach out to you just to book a tour, but
Sure.
just kind of making sure you're always getting those shows. What's your process for that?
Yeah, man. I think I'm a big believer in not trying to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
I'm lucky that there's people that have come before me, and I see people announce shows that look like they're doing really well. And I see a lot of people here in Nashville that I have met that talk about like guys like Zach Top right now. Like I booked Zach Top on a whim a couple months ago. It sold out in like 9 days. Red Clay Strays, I booked him at Third and Lindsley. They sold 116 tickets the first time through on like a Wednesday, and I, I remember this very clearly. I offered them twice what they walked with for the next show because I was like, that band is going to explode. And so I think part of it is like actually seeing the band too. Like there have been times where I've seen a band that people are crazy about, and I go see them, and it just doesn't necessarily do it for me. And I'm not saying I don't get behind things like that, but like I really try and kind of have some sort of like heart to heart connection with what I'm getting involved with.
Right.
And when I hear guys like Zach Top or like Jake Worthington or like Ben Chapman, like some of these guys that I'm just like, that is the future of music. That's it's hard to describe. So it feels like a little bit of a gut thing. It feels like a little bit of like trying to just kind of pay attention to what's happening. And you watch guys like Zach Top sell out, exit in, you're like, all right, something's going on there. Steven Wilson Jr.
Oh, he's such a badass.
Dude, where did that guy come from?
Yeah.
He's been around for a while too.
I was stalking his Instagram the other day because I was so curious. I was like, where did he come from? And his
He
voice
seems like an alien.
yes. Like it really does seem like he's not a human.
Not of this earth.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was stalking his Instagram just to make sure he was human.
Yeah.
And I went all the way back far, years and years and years. And he was in Nashville just kind of like writing and just living this normal ass life. And then now he's just like one of the best voices I've ever heard.
For real.
It's sick.
Yeah. Well, and then when everybody around you is talking about somebody, there can be a little bit of smoke sometimes where you're like, okay, and you go see him, like I said, and it doesn't necessarily cut it for you. With guys like what we're talking about, like you just kind of know. Like when I heard Red Clay Stray, I was like, dude, I knew. I was like, that band is gonna be massive. And what's funny is they did about 350 paid the next time. Again, I was like, I knew that they were gonna try to go to like the Ryman or something like that. I said, give me one more shot. We'll do it 700 cap, fully standing at Third and Lindsley. It'll be awesome. And I remember they called me. The agents called me, and they're like. Like they almost sounded stressed. They're like, they must really like you because they decided to go to Third and Lindsley over like this other thing. And that's another thing is like just treating artists with respect and like, trying to do special things for them, make them feel seen. Thinking outside the box, dude. I had this artist at Cannery this weekend, and like one of his favorite songs is Met You in a Coffee Shop or Girl in a Coffee Shop. And so we're like, well, what if we partnered with like a local coffee shop and like we hid some tickets in there, and like we're promoting that business, we're promoting that artist, we're giving away tickets to fans.
Are you talking Zach Seaball?
Yeah.
I work at River House.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
I'm the A&R
Yeah, and I just
there.
realized that's not show's not until June, but yeah, it's just trying to kind of think outside the box and be like, what can we do to be different than like anybody can promote a show.
Yeah.
But like how can you get down to like a granular level and dissect that artist and be like, I want to do something for this artist that like nobody's ever thought of. And that's a hard thing to do, especially when you're trying to do volume and you're just cranking out shows, but sitting down and just trying to kind of like really get personal with that artist is huge. And I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, so I'm sorry,
yeah, no,
but,
all for it.
yeah, I feel like just paying attention to what's happening. Like, dude, it's not. I tell people all the time, it's not rocket science, or I wouldn't do it. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I just like good music. You get hip to something, and you try things that don't work, dude. There's guys that I've been behind. I was like, well, that didn't work necessarily, but then you keep throwing the
It's
ball.
trial and error, yeah.
Yeah, you keep even throwing the ball to that guy, and like you watch them grow. Like, I've been a part of a ton of success stories like that, where like I hit my head over and over and over again with an artist. Gave him a Thursday night, then I was like, maybe a Friday night would do it, and it didn't do it. And they just release a song or a piece of content or something that connects with people. Josiah and the Bonnevilles. That guy had signed a record deal with Warner, I think when he was like 19 or 20. A couple years ago, he got out of the music business entirely. Released a song on TikTok, blew up, said I think he started putting out content like once a month. and it started to explode, and to the point where he quit his job. This was maybe 6 or 7 months ago. Sold out. I reached out to the agent because I saw, transparently, I saw Spotify numbers just cranking.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what is going on here? And the kid had no shows on his website, and every piece of content he talked about how he was like out of music. He was done with it. And I reached out to his agent at the time, and I was like, dude, I have a feeling like, I don't know why, but I was like, I feel like he could sell us out. Like, I was so confident in it. And he was like, I don't think so, man. We should probably cut that part out. But he was like, yeah, man, like let's do it. And we put it up, sold out in like 15 minutes. And I was just shocked. I mean, I looked at Ron at Third and Lindsay. I was like, I kind of can't believe it. Put up another show, sold out like 15 minutes. And I like begged them. I was like, can we put up a third show? And they're like, yeah. Sold out like 25 minutes. So just kind of like, I don't know what it is, but just kind of getting a gut feeling on what you're after and believing in it. And doesn't always work, but either way, it feels good to just get behind somebody, whether they're going to sell tickets or not. You know what I mean? Just getting to be a part of the story. And that's one of the aspects I like about being a promoter, is the same passion that I had as an agent for that tour or for that album's life cycle. Like, I get to do that for so many artists, and I don't necessarily have to represent them. I can be a part of their story for, one night. Like Josh Malloy, we bought the entire Florida tour, and that was like Steel Drivers, bought the whole Florida tour. And just being able to get behind somebody, having the agents even trust you to like execute it is a challenging, tedious process of trial and error, and you mess up, and it's an odd game, but it's a fun one, and it feels like artist management for one night, and it's a really cool way to kind of get involved on a pretty dialed in ground floor level. So yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah. So Ella just played at Tuffy's.
yeah.
She said, I think that was the most tickets she sold.
She said that to us, and we were like, I don't believe her. Then I talked to somebody, like, no, it's real, and she had a great time. And actually, shout out to Brian Carether, has sent me a video, I think, of your artist opening for Ella,
Mm-hmm.
Which I didn't know until you told me yesterday. So I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah. Yeah. So his name is Hunter Hayes.
Hunter. Yeah. That's right.
Ironically, it's Hunter Hayes, which
right. Okay, I'm sorry.
because he has that there's that other artist that blew up like in 2012. Remember him?
And he's from Colorado, Hunter, right?
No, Hunter's from Jacksonville.
Okay.
My other artist, Cody, he's
That's
from
right.
Colorado. Yeah.
Cody
Kaz.
That's right. Okay.
But yeah, Hunter Hayes, there was this artist back in like 2013 had that song Wanted that was like a #1 at radio.
Yeah.
So it's been tough like having another guy named Hunter Hayes. So we just rebranded to Hayes in all caps. So that's what he goes by,
That's
just
cool,
Hayes.
Man. Yeah.
And then Chase Butler, Ella's tour manager, hit me up, and we got that all figured out with you guys at Tuffy's. So
yeah, he seems like a good dude too.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Bradley Jordan manages Ella.
Yep, with Megan.
Cool. And we're doing some shows with Peachtree Entertainment. We've kind of like branded on a couple shows. It's not announced yet, but I don't know if I should even say it.
This comes out this coming Tuesday.
Okay, so no, I won't say it.
Okay,
I can say it another time.
I am doing a podcast this coming Monday. When is it going to be announced, do you think?
I don't know, probably like April or May.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then yeah,
so
just
no.
wait on it. I was gonna say I have a podcast on Monday. I could release that one the next day and then follow you the next week. But yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's cool. Like we partnered with companies like AEG in the last year on some shows. Excited to partner with Peachtree on a couple shows this year. Peachtree is actually we're co-promoting Jake Worthington together
Nice.
on a show here in Nashville, and Yeah, man. It's been it's been an amazing process just doing things I really kind of felt like a pipe dream for so long. Just getting to be a part of music is a really incredible thing for me. It's all I've ever wanted to do. I told somebody the other day, I said, it's the only thing that's ever really made sense to me, and at the same time, makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
You know? Um, so, how did you get connected with Hunter and Cody?
Cody, so back in 2022, he was working with Craig Campbell, um, and he was putting out his debut song, and that he was like, I forget how I saw it. I might have seen it from Craig's social, so I like followed Cody on Instagram. We were just mutuals on social media, and then we ended up kind of like, you know how that works. Like, you're mutuals on social media for so long that it's kind of like, all right, let's just connect.
Right.
So I think
Or
I
you just
DM'd
never
him.
connect.
Yeah, right.
And it's awkward.
But then you like see each other in public, and you're like, I think I know that guy.
Right.
But yeah, so we just connected on Instagram, and then I'm a big West Virginia football fan.
Okay. How did
And
that come to be?
My mom's side of the family, which is probably my biggest side of the family,
Yeah.
they're all like, my mom's born and raised in Morgantown, West Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
She's like third generation Morgantown or something.
Wow.
But, yeah, they all went to WVU, so I grew up going there.
Fans. Die-hard fans.
Yeah.
That's a cool college town.
Oh yeah, Morgantown's sweet.
Yeah.
You should pick up a venue in there.
Yeah, if you know. What is it? Is it the Purple Fiddle or
There's 123
123
Pleasant Street,
right,
or something like
yeah,
that.
that place is cool.
But that's like, they don't really do country music. There's no
Right.
They need some country there, or they need some better music
Maybe
scene.
so.
Yeah,
Maybe
pick that
so.
shit up.
Yeah.
And book my
right.
artists.
I
there.
know. Well, we definitely need to get Hunter and Cody down to those spots.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like we need to just start kind of tossing the ball to each other and figure out what we need to work on. It's been a while since we've connected, so I'm glad we
sure
did it again.
But yeah, Hayes, he he posted a video on TikTok in October of 23, and it got like 800,000 views. And me working in A&R at a label, I was like, give me that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So I linked up with him, and yeah, then I just started managing him. It's been sweet.
Yeah. How did you get to River House? That seems like it's
Oh,
I don't
man.
know a ton about it, but it seems really cool.
Yeah, so the vice president, Zeb Luster, he's from my hometown.
Okay.
And I was just doing my management thing, kind of like I was when you and I first met. And I was at my girlfriend's place. We were visiting her family in Indianapolis because she's from there. And it was like a random Sunday morning, and I got a DM on Instagram from Zeb. And he was like, hey, man, we have this position open. Like, someone from CAA had thrown your name into the hat.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, shit, yeah, I'll take a meeting. So we went and had a meeting at First Watch. He hired me, and yeah, they hired me as a part-time A&R scout. So I wasn't in office. I was just like,
How does that work? I know nothing about A&R.
Basically, it's like my only job as a scout was be the young dude that will stay out until midnight going to writers' rounds and networking and shaking hands.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because as they get older and they get busier, they don't want to do that shit.
Right.
So I was like the guy that was going to go out in the field, and I was on TikTok and Instagram just kind of seeing what was trending.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we had meetings, I think it was like at that time once a week, we had an A&R meeting that I would come in with a list of artists. Like, here's information about them. Here's where they're from. Here's how old they are. Here's their music. You know, dig up whatever I could about them. Kind of just like, I wouldn't necessarily pitch it to them like, we need to sign this person. It was like, here's this. I like this. Let's just keep watching it.
Yeah.
So some people like we reached out to, some we didn't. But that is how I did meet Hunter. And then in February of this year, that was August 23. February of this year, Zeb called me and promoted me to full-time A&R coordinator.
Dude, nice.
So now I have an office there.
Nice.
And that was
Where are you guys' office out of?
West Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah, they were on Music Row, but then you're familiar with Make Wake Artists. Yeah, so they had this big warehouse out there, and then they moved. Soap River House took over where Make Wake is at.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So it's sweet. I mean,
You
Lynn.
guys out in the warehouse?
Mm-hmm.
Is that awesome?
It's sick.
Because I feel like you guys just there's so much more opportunity to like do things and like be in like a cubicle. You know.
Yes. So
You
we
guys
had
do
this-
merch out of there, or like.
Yep. So we have a storage thing up top. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. I'm sure I probably am.
I understand.
But
We'll bleep it out.
yeah, I mean we're just talking about the office, whatever.
We'll bleep out merch, and that way they don't know what we're talking about.
But we have this it's obviously like just a basic office. Like you walk in, it looks like a normal office, even though it's in West Nashville by the airport, so it's like
Okay,
those big
cool.
factories.
Yeah.
But yeah, so then we have a studio in there.
I'm sure it's much cheaper than being on Music Row.
Oh yeah, I bet. But even though there's a lot of expensive shit in there.
Yeah.
As far as like how big the place is. But we have this thing in the back, this warehouse, and it's called the house, and it's a rehearsal studio.
Cool.
And I mean, like, being in the industry, I'm around famous people a decent bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was sitting in there and Billy Strings rolls up.
No.
Yes.
What do you do?
I was like, I was in my boss's office just like talking. I'm like, holy shit, that's Billy Strings. He's like, yeah. Like he's doing a photo
Get
shoot
over
here.
it.
Yeah. I'm like, no. That's Billy Strings.
Right. Yeah.
He's like, yeah.
I'm a huge Billy fan. So
Yeah.
that makes sense to me.
He pulled up in like a fully restored green Chevelle. Oh, it was so loud. Had the windows rattling.
Man.
It was sweet.
Man.
Yeah. It was a
He's the dude.
fangirl moment, and I hate to admit that.
Yeah. No. I mean,
But, like,
admit it. That's,
yeah.
but he's definitely like. I think I went to Billy's festival in Buena Vista, Colorado this year, renewal. So cool. It's 4 nights of Billy. It's like 6 sets a day. He's sitting, they have other bands, and he just comes and sits in, and it's such a neat experience. He's what like a come up he's had.
Oh,
Man,
yeah.
I saw him in Austin at Antone's, like a 400 cap club, like 5 years ago. It was insane, and now he's selling out arenas.
That was so. To be honest, I'm like traditional country music. I like the Cody Johnsons and like Billy Strings music is not like my preference.
Sure.
It's like very jam bandy. It's like not
Right.
my thing. But I'm such a fan of his story, and I did go to his
Yeah.
show at Bridgestone because he sold out Friday night, Saturday night, and then I think sold out the Ryman on Sunday,
Right.
which is nuts to sell
Insane.
3 nights out in Nashville at the base. I mean, if you're not playing Nissan, Bridgestone is
Yeah.
that's
Which, let's be real, he probably could have.
yeah. I mean,
I think that's next for him.
yeah, if you're selling out 2 nights at Bridgestone and then selling out the Ryman, that's like you could play Nissan if
Dude,
you wanted
he's,
to.
He's playing like traditional bluegrass, like Doc Watson.
Yeah.
And playing arenas. Like those guys never even touched arenas.
Yeah.
So I feel like he's taken a genre and flipped it on its head. There's a lot of. I'm a huge bluegrass nut. I told you I was a recovering hippie, so
Mhm.
like part of that is being a big jam band guy. I don't really see a ton of jam bands anymore, but I still follow along very closely. And Billy is like the perfect gap for me between like jam, country, bluegrass, Americana, and what he's doing with it is so cool.
I'm from Fort Myers, Florida. Have you ever been there?
I haven't. No.
So if you go to Fort Myers Beach pre-hurricane, I would tell you that that's probably the best people watching you'll ever see.
Okay. Yeah.
And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Why is that?
Until just it's so diverse of just crazy people. You got a lot of drunk college kids, a lot of homeless people.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know what you're gonna see out there.
Yeah.
But then I went to the Billy Strings concert. That was the best people watching
I'm sure.
I've ever seen.
I'm sure.
How diverse it was of like your drunk frat boys,
Yeah.
and then like your
Dreaded hippies.
the ones that like haven't showered in probably 6 years.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
I mean, I was sitting next to people. We were taking bets of what drugs they were on, but it was like the craziest shit
All
ever.
of them.
I mean, like, the dude next to me was like acting the whole concert as if he was at like a metal concert.
Yeah,
and it's just Billy just like picking a guitar,
dude.
and he was going nuts.
Absolutely.
I'm like, this guy might die after this.
Um, Billy, The Grateful Dead, Fish, Widespread Panic. One of the coolest things to me is that there is a really strong sober community in each of them. I can't remember. Billy's is called the Dust in a Baggies, and it's they have an AA meeting at set break every night. So people that travel to see Billy can kind of have a support system when they go to see shows. The Grateful Dead has it's called the Wharf Rats. Um, but that was like a really kind of a neat thing as I got sober because I kind of had an identity crisis. I had built
Hmm.
my life around this like jam band traveling. I was the guy that didn't take showers at least for like 6 days, maybe not 6 years,
That's
but
wild.
I sold tacos and pancakes to like make money to like get into the show.
Holy shit! I thought someone was lying to me about that.
Oh no, that was me. Yeah.
There was somebody. Oh, they were telling me a story about Fish,
Oh yeah.
and they were like, yeah, there was a whole bunch of people, like crowd that was following them, and they were like, these people follow them to every show, and they sell
Mm-hmm.
like stuff like that to make
Anything
money. I
like
thought they were just being dramatic. That's
no like
nuts.
there's hundreds of people at each show. They call it Shakedown Street or the Lot, and Billy's fans have definitely adopted that. I think a little bit, where it's just people that have made these like bootleg shirts, bootleg hats, like just anything to get to the next show. And I know people that make like a living. There's a company called um, Section 117, and they're Fish fans, and they have like a store next to Madison Square Garden now in New York City, which is nuts to me. Like they've become so big that, and there's if you think about it, there's millions and millions of fans of a certain band. You start making kind of like offshoot bootleg clothing, and people adopt it. It seems like you could probably do some damage in that department. But yeah, I mean, I remember getting in a car with my friend Eddie and Caleb, and we went to some Panic shows, and we sold pancakes and like bacon and breakfast for people that were basically sleeping in the parking lot. Um, and everybody kind of has a niche, and it was a wild time. But yeah, I feel like I had kind of like an identity crisis at one point when I got sober, and um, it was cool to see other people that were like on the same path as me that like love music, want to be around it, want to travel to see it, but like we're tired of living the life that they were living.
Yeah. Well, damn.
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. It's wild.
I promise you, I don't remember. It might have been on this podcast, or it might have been. I don't even remember.
Yeah,
But someone told me that, and I really thought they were just bullshitting, just like being dramatic about it.
yeah. No,
That's
it's real.
that's nuts.
That's wild.
But
But
so to wrap up everything, with all of your experience, obviously you've had a lot
ha,
of experiences. What's your advice to somebody that's trying to get into the music industry? And I started saying this last episode. Don't say networking,
ah,
because everybody says networking.
everybody says that.
Yeah.
Man, I'm gonna be hopefully the first one to say take care of your mental health. I think it's the number one thing you can do, and it's something I should take my own medicine on most days because it is a brutal business and it's easy to get bogged down. Um, your health and wellness shines through your work, I think, and when you feel good, you're able to do good. And there's been times in my life where like I did not feel good, and I don't think I was the best me that I could possibly be for my artists or my venues or me, my girlfriend, my dog, my parents. Um, you know, it's easy to overwork yourself in this business. And there's
100%.
always something to do. There's always a person to network with. And it's like, am I getting right with myself before I like go to this dinner or go to this thing? And it's like if I'm not in a good headspace, I'm not going to get done what I need to get done. And I'm not going to affect change the way that I want to affect change if I'm not in the right headspace. Um, you can go and network when you've like taken care of your like when your own house is in order, as they say. Um, which is funny because my house is an actual mess right now.
Mine is too. Ever since I started this office job, because before it was I was on my own schedule.
Right.
You know, I could work and then send an email and go throw in some laundry or go
Yeah.
fold some clothes. Now it's like
I got like one day to do laundry.
yeah.
You know, nowadays.
I mean, my weekends I'm working still.
Right.
Like I'm doing this and I got other stuff. Like
I got a show tonight. I
yeah,
got a show tomorrow. I had a show last night. So it's tough. And that's what I mean is like just taking time. Like, man, and it's tough. I've been trying to like at least meal prep in the week, trying to get that done just so I'm not eating like garbage, which has been a thing. Um, but yeah, man, I've gone through a lot of challenges just personally, and um, it's hard to be the person you want to be if your mind isn't right. I think getting off drugs and alcohol for me obviously was a huge help, and I wasn't bottom of the barrel, wasn't facing homelessness or anything, but like it wasn't pretty. And I think a big driver for me was just like, am I living the best life that I could possibly live?
right.
And the answer was absolutely not. And so I try and push the people that are around me to be happy, healthy, contributing members of the industry and society. And man, we're only on this planet for such a short amount of time. And it's like, it's easy to think that the things that we are working on are the most important thing.
Exactly.
But dude, I tell people all the time, like, I'm not a first responder. I ain't solving the hunger crisis. I'm not a hostage negotiator. Though it feels like it sometimes.
My or the couple episodes ago, I had JD Groover on.
Okay.
He tour manages John Langston.
Cool.
He's over at Seagale Music Publishing.
Okay.
But he's like, dude, because I asked him, I was like, how do you go to work on Monday and work throughout the week, and then Thursday night you're bus calling? He's like, Sunday's the only day I have to go to Costco to see my wife, to do laundry.
Man, I relate to that.
And so I asked him, I was like, that's tough. I have it as a reel on my Instagram. And he's like, dude, explained it. He's like, one of my best friends is a firefighter. Without him, houses are burning down.
Yeah.
And he's
right.
saying all these things. He's from South Georgia. He's like, some of my friends work at the naval base or in the military. It's like, we're spoiled. I mean, I get to listen to new songs and be around famous people, and
right.
like we are very spoiled.
Yeah.
And I think to piggyback off what you had said earlier is that you said pick a lane. And someone that's young and hungry in this industry wants to be a Swiss Army knife and do everything they possibly can.
Which I will say I think is great.
Right.
To figure out what your lane is.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes people go down a lane so hard, they forgot that there's other options. Yeah. Life is long.
And it's also really hard or really easy to, when you're doing that, to bite off more than you can chew.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, I did that a lot. And I had,
Same.
Shout out Nikki T,
Still.
who founded Raise Rowdy and all that stuff, because I was managing a whole bunch of people doing all this stuff. And we were supposed to have a meeting to talk about my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed it.
Been there.
And I gave an excuse. And he was like, dude, he said, maybe this isn't for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it is. He's like, you're biting off more than you can chew, and people aren't going to forget that. You're going to burn bridges.
Right.
And they're going to talk. And that, like, hit me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, shit. Like, I got to just take a step back and, because it can overwhelm you. And it does take a big toll on your mental health, being overwhelmed. You're like, I don't know if I can do it.
And you're trying to put food on your table, too, and, like, start your career. It's like, well, how can I not just start throwing stuff at the wall, trying to figure out, what I can do. And I get it, man. Like I still feel like there's days where I need to pick a lane, even within what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
I will say this right now. I feel like I'm not biting off more than I can chew, but it's getting there.
Mm-hmm.
But the mouth is full for sure. The plate is full.
Which I forgot to bring this up earlier in the podcast. So that means you obviously need help, and you're bringing on interns.
Yeah.
So, for the people listening, we do have a lot of young people that are trying
Cool.
to get in the industry. Um, so obviously you go to like the Belmont fairs and probably MTSU internship fairs. Um, how would people that don't have that music degree? Because I didn't have a music degree. I didn't go to school for music. How would
Same.
they reach out to you, and would you look at taking in an intern like that?
Man, I think if if you wake up and you're like, like, what can I do? That's your attitude. That was my attitude. I was like, dude, I'll lick the floors clean to just be in the same room as you guys. I mean, and it's funny when I talk to interns now, and this is a good thing, I think, but like I had talking, he's like, yeah, I'm looking at like 80, 90K out of the gate, like didn't have a degree. And I was like, man, that's like like mad respect for like putting your, and maybe somebody will give that to him. I don't know, but like that just wasn't like I was very much like I'll do anything and I'll figure it out, and I know my work ethic. I'll wake up earlier than that guy or that guy, and like that was. I, I remember my dad saying when I played football and baseball, like just work so hard that they can't not give it to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like give them no excuse to why you should not be there. You know what I mean? And that was like my attitude. And I think this sounds like very boomer of me. God, I'm not, but like I I think there's a different attitude nowadays, which I think is good. Like I think younger people are like starting to actually know their worth. We've been living in this society where we're like, you get out of college and it's just a brutal job market and people are getting overworked and underpaid. So like go off, do get your money, get your bag, but like also if you're not getting it, like maybe a sign for you to like just, you know, wake up earlier than the next guy and say I'm gonna come in before anybody gets to the office. I'm gonna leave after everybody leaves, and I guarantee you, I've heard people say this before, but it's like if you're a good person and you work hard, I rarely see those people fail. You know what I mean? And that was honestly, I mean, getting real, like that was an extreme fear of mine. It's just, what if I put all of my work into this and it doesn't work out? Which is still a possibility today.
Yeah.
Anything's possible. But like, just working so hard that I realized that, and not to the point where I was overworking myself, but I think at least for the couple of years, dedicating yourself to your craft. There was many nights and still nights today where like I'm up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning just trying to get through my emails.
Yeah.
And thank God I have a good group of people that are around me, and the support that I actually get from the venues that we work with, like they're all amazing. They're really incredible workers, and they work to benefit the artist. They work to benefit the fan. That's the end goal. And it's funny because if everything went right, I never hear about it. But if one thing went wrong, I hear about it. So a lot of times it's a thankless job and it's easy to get bogged down. And you have to kind of be your own cheerleader sometimes. So like, yes. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, and there's 10 paths. I'm not saying this is the right one, but hit us up. We'd love to chat with you, and if it's a fit, it's a fit. But we want to try and work with people that get it. Like, hey, I'm gonna have to really buckle down and take this seriously and cut time out of my life for a little bit with the end goal in mind that like, I'm going to affect change, because it does. Like I said, like we're not. I'm not going to say that like what we do isn't affecting change, because it is. Like we impact artists' lives and fans' lives. Like my life is forever changed from the first concert I ever went to the last concert I ever went to. I want to give people that moment, and I think it's easy to also forget that like it's easy to be like, oh, it's just a concert, it's just this, and it's also easy to make it up into this thing that it's not. And I try and live a life now where it's like, don't take it so seriously. Like it didn't, it is important, and if you're gonna do it, but take it easy, be kind to yourself, like work hard, try and lift the people up that are around you, but at the end of the day, you're not. Hopefully, you're not a first responder,
Mm-hmm.
in the business, and you're doing things that affect real change. So, um, yeah, if that sounds like something that you're into and you want to be a part of, we'd love to have you. So, um, yeah, and I really appreciate you having me on the podcast to
Absolutely, man.
just like talk about music. Like I said, I could talk about this till the sun comes
Oh,
up.
me
And
too. That's why I started this
I know,
thing.
I know.
Because I'm like, I obviously, like I said, I didn't have a degree in music. I didn't have that at all. I had no affiliation with it other than maybe a few connections. So I listened to podcasts and I learned. I was like, I want to do this. So I'm going to find any possible way I can to do it. And, I found myself having coffee with people and listening to the podcast. And I was like, I could talk about this shit forever. Like, I want to learn and I want to just talk about it. So that's why I started this podcast, because I figured someone could sit here and listen to me talk about it for hours and learn.
Yeah, man. Well, you guys are doing the Lord's work. This is really cool, man.
Thank you.
Yeah. When I moved to Nashville, Raised Rowdy was like one of the first things I think I ever came across, just like on social media. And I think I reached out to Matt, and we did a Trey show at Third
Nice.
and Lindsley, and that was really my first time ever meeting them. But yeah, you guys seem like really hard workers, and seems like you guys have built something really, really special. And it's cool that you guys are able to connect with, the next generation of music fans and people that are paying attention to what's
100%.
going on. So,
Yeah. Nick and Matt are doing a great job with Race Rowdy. It's becoming something
yeah,
a lot bigger than maybe they ever expected. I'm sure when Nick T started this, he was not expecting it to be as big as it is now and doing
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
So they're good people. I'm happy for them. I'm very thankful for them. I mean, without them, I don't even know where I would be. They've given me a platform for a lot. So
Yeah.
shout out to Raise Rowdy, Nick Tressler, Matt Burrell, some of the best people I
Killing
know.
it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I know you got
Dude,
somewhere to be at
Thanks,
1.
man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
Cool. Well, thank y'all for listening to another episode of Behind the Music Biz, a Raise Rowdy podcast. Thanks again to our guest, Andrew Hall. You can check out more from the podcast at raiserowdy.com and on Instagram at raiserowdy. And then you can find the podcast on Instagram at Behind the Music Biz. So thank y'all for listening, and we'll see y'all next Tuesday.